Hi everyone. I'm really just going to introduce the session this evening, which is following on from a session that I did last summer, which was when I was relatively new to Zoho Creator, having looked for replacements for Access web apps for some time, following the demise of AWA. I came across Zoho Creator, and I felt really that it was the closest thing to a web version of Access that I've ever seen. And I don't just mean Access web apps in a way either. I think it comes pretty close to being a sort of shoe-in for replacing Access as a tool, but in a web environment. And I say that because of the kind of learning curve, which starts very gently, and the product ultimately can become a very powerful platform. So the session I gave in July didn't go into quite enough detail for everyone, I feel. That's the feedback that we had, I think. So I decided, when we talked about another session, to ask Aditya from Zoho in India to take over the presentation. So I'd like to introduce Aditya Tandon, who's responsible for partners and developers as a sort of program within Zoho Creator, the Zoho Creator team, and is going to give us a bit of a deeper dive into the product, particularly in terms of security and application distribution and all that kind of thing, all of which is very important to a lot of us in the Access world. So over to you, Aditya, and I look forward to hearing what you've got to say.
Thanks a lot, Julian. Thanks a lot. I'd like to start off by saying a very good evening to everyone. So I'm Aditya, and I'm a part of the developer relations team at Zoho Creator. So I'd like to start off by actually thanking George and Julian for having me here. The agenda for today's presentation would be to understand how Zoho Creator could serve as a viable alternative to Access apps, and also be the platform of choice for developers looking to build web and mobile business apps for their customers. Okay? So before we get started though, I'd like to remind everyone about the last session on Zoho Creator, which was conducted by Julian, as he mentioned, sometime in the month of June 2017. So I believe George records these sessions, and he's been very kind to put the session on the chapter's meeting recording section for everyone to watch. So in case you haven't had the opportunity to be present for the last one, you could find that recorded session on the website under the video section, right? So before we jump to what Zoho Creator really is, right? Let's take a minute out to understand a little bit about Zoho, the company. So Zoho is actually home to three major brands, namely Manage Engine, Web NMS, and Zoho.com, which is the focus for today. So Zoho.com is involved in the development of cloud software, and it is one of the fastest growing suite of SaaS applications around the world. The suite consists of about 40 different products, which are spread across different verticals. And we look at ourselves as wanting to become the operating system for business. What that basically means is we want to provide all the software that a company would need to run their business on, right? So moving on to the product in focus here, which is Zoho Creator. So Zoho Creator is basically a low-code custom application builder that allows you to build business apps for both the web and mobile. So the apps that you build using Creator are mostly meant for internal consumption, that is inside the company of the customer that you are building for. However, as we move forward in this particular meeting, I will also talk about creating white labeled or bespoke applications that you can extend for external consumptions as well for your customers. So let's start off by understanding what Creator is about, right? So you can either get started with the Creator app by migrating your Access app, be it a web application or an Access database. So that is the Access web app or the Access database itself. Or you can choose to build one from scratch on Zoho Creator, right? So to avoid a repetition of content, I've provided a link on this page that you can see, and you can click that link and go ahead and read how to go ahead and migrate your Access app to Creator. Or else you could go and check out the recorded video from the last meeting where Julian has actually done a wonderful job of migrating an app from Access Web Apps to Zoho Creator, right? So let's move ahead and see how do we go and build an app from scratch. So when I log in to my Zoho Creator account, right, what I typically see is this application dashboard where I can choose to create an application, right, either from scratch. So if I click the new application button, I have the option to create from scratch, or I can do so by installing an application from this application gallery that we have. So you can, other than this, you can also go ahead and use the option to import a file, and you can create an application directly by uploading any of these files that you have. So you can see we accept Excel files, Access DB files, and also a .ds file, which is nothing but an existing Zoho Creator application, right? So let's take a look at an application that I've built only partially though, right? And understand what the basic components of a Zoho Creator app are. So once I open my app though, you can see what we have. This is something that's called the live mode of the application. This is actually the equivalent of a deployed application, which is ready to use, right? So to start building or editing the app, we can move to something that is called the edit mode of the application. So when I click this icon here, you can see I'm in the edit mode of the application. So this is our form builder that we have, right? And if I click this dashboard icon here, you will go ahead and be able to see the three major components that we have in Creator, which are the forms, the reports, and the pages, right? So moving on to what exactly forms, reports, and pages are. So simply put, forms are the data collection units of Creator, right? And they are closely linked with the reports that are there. And unlike Access, every time you create a form, it creates a linked report with the form. So the report here is the database, right? So reports is where the data is stored, right? But forms and reports are so closely linked that sometimes it is a decent assumption here that your form is the database itself, right? So if you go ahead and delete, what I mean by that is if you go ahead and delete a particular entry or a field in the form, that will delete the underlying data itself for that particular field, right? So we also have the option to create a form which is not linked to a report. So let me go ahead and show you how you can create a form that is not linked to a report. And that is something that we call a stateless form in Zoho Creator, right? So when you go ahead and click create new form, you can go ahead and let's call it test stateless form. When I uncheck the option for data will be stored in Zoho Creator, that is when I go ahead and create a stateless form, which basically will not have a report which is created with it, right? So let's actually go back to what a report is now. So reports are basically, to put it simply, think of reports as something like a view. So reports are the database, and they also are the different kind of views, say a calendar view or say a spreadsheet view, right? And all of the data that you put inside resides in these reports, and you can go ahead and create multiple reports on one form, and that allows you to basically create different views. So one form can have multiple views. Right. Moving forward, we have the third component, which is called a page, right? When you look at a page is basically something that will allow you to use HTML, CSS, and delete script to come up with an extremely custom view, say like a dashboard, or what you can also do is embed a combination of forms and reports together on one view. So if anyone is wondering what delete script is the scripting language that powers Zoho Creator. That is something that we will get into a little bit. But let me go ahead and show you an example of what a dashboard is. So if I show you this, you can see that this is a particular dashboard that I've got, which has got 4 different reports that are embedded, and I can mouse over any of these reports, and they are responsive. That's something that the reports have within them itself. So within reports there are different types, which are all of the types that are simpler ones, like the list view or the spreadsheet view, and you also have more graphical ones, which are things like the chart that I've just showed you. So the dashboard that we've got here is basically an example of a page where you can go ahead and embed multiple things, right? So this is a form that I've already got, right? And let's go ahead and see how we can create or actually go ahead and edit this one, right? So when we are in the edit mode, now we are back to the edit mode, and you can see on the left we have got all of these field options that are available here, right? So within this particular form, we can drag and drop a particular field, right? And based on what I want in the field, I can go ahead and choose which field I want. So a single line field, for example, is a very simple string. It accepts string formats. If I want to go ahead and have predefined values, I could probably go ahead and choose a drop down field and go ahead. So let's say I want to add something like a status on this drop down, and the only options that I have are approved or disapproved, right? So let's say I'm going to add this status to this particular form. I do not need the single line field here, so I'm just going to delete that. And you can see that once I've added this particular status, I can go ahead, access the application, and that particular field is now available on this. So to give you an example of how this particular form is tied into the report, let's try filling this out. So I'll just put in some values here, which allow me to add something. So I don't have the image of an extinguisher here, so I'm not going to use that. And let's just say I want to click this as approved. So I can go ahead and store. I can fill out this form. I can go ahead and store all the data in the particular database here, which in this case is the list report. So you can see I can go ahead and change how my data looks based on the view that I want, right? And I can have a completely custom view by moving to something like a dashboard, right? So I'm sure all of you are wondering what this app is basically, right? This app is I would say a super fast built version of a very long form that is filled by agents who are involved in compliance for the occupational safety and health regulation in the United States. So every employer is responsible for giving their employees a safe workplace, and this particular form is required to be approved for that particular employer in case they're supposed to be OSHA compliant, right? So this is something that I came up with really, really quick, and you can see that there are multiple categories that this form needs to fill out, and we've gone ahead and clicked and done this. So we've done this, but let's say now let's move to a point where I actually want to put some sort of automation in this form, right? I want to be able to put some script on the form, and I also want to be able to, let's say, create an approval process for the data that was filled in this report, right? So right now we've just clicked the status approved and someone filling the form, but the status on the form does not really make sense for it to be on the form, but it should be on the report, which someone will look at, where someone will look at the data and then approve or disapprove that particular request, right? So let's go back and let's say, let's take this form. And now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and hide the status drop down whenever the form is actually loaded, so that, when someone is filling out the form, they don't change the status to approved or disapproved while filling out the form itself, right? And another thing I would like to do is I can see that there is a question that says, are there any extinguishers beyond the expiry date, right? So it's the only options are yes or no. So my point here though is, if I say that an extinguisher is beyond the expiry date, only then do I want to click a photo of the image of the oldest extinguisher. So the field that I have used here is something that we have called an image field, and I can use that to click a photograph or upload a photograph in that particular field itself. So the point being, how do I go ahead and do these simple actions on the form, right? So the way to do that is to move to something called the workflow. Clicking the workflow tab will now take you to the part where all of the script that powers the form can be written. So on the left, I have something called my triggers, which are divided based on the form and the field. And this is my dilute script editor, where I can come and actually write the script that is supposed to run when any of these triggers happen. So simply put, whenever the form loads, I would want to hide the status field because I don't want anyone seeing what exactly the status is, and I also don't want them modifying the status. So I can go ahead and click hide, and from the field that is present, I can click the hide status field. So I go ahead and I click save script. Once I've saved my script, my workflow has actually been programmed, and I am now ready to access my application on the live mode itself. You can see as I open the app in the live mode, the status field is no longer visible, right? And that is because that particular workflow has executed. Another thing I would like to do is check, like I said, are there any extinguishers beyond expiry date, right? And only if there are extinguishers beyond expiry date, I would like to show the image of the oldest extinguisher, right? So let's go back and let's say now this time my trigger is actually happening on the whenever I am going ahead and modifying or entering data into a particular field. So the trigger is field based and not really form based. So let's say at this point of time, I've written, I'm going to go ahead and add an if condition that says if extinguisher expiry date, which is this, is equal to yes, right? So that means, is it later? I would want to hide, if it is no, I would want to hide the particular field, right? So I'm going to go ahead and hide the image. So how do I check what the name is? So that's, I can either check from here or I will have to go back and see my form. Let's go here and check what the deluge name of that particular field is. So it says image of oldest extinguisher. I would go ahead and hide the image of the oldest extinguisher and save my script. Once I've saved my script, I can access the application again in the live mode, and you will see as I make a change here, the field that is there for the image is now hidden, right? So Since that is the case, you can see how I can go ahead and program workflows which will modify how the form looks to different people and based on different data that I am entering, right? The next thing I would want to do that we had discussed was, let me go back here, and I said, okay, you know what, let's take my report, and when I have my report, I would want to click whether something is approved or not approved, right? So I want to be able to click a button that says approve, and then the status should change to approve. So typically what we have to do here is go ahead and create a button. So that's something that we call a custom action. So let's go ahead and create a custom action that says approve, right? But before, so I want to go ahead and create that button, but the point being, if I want to run a particular function on that thing, I need to make sure that I actually have a function that is written somewhere so I can go ahead and run. So let's go back to my workflow and let me go ahead and create a new function, right? So I'm going to create a function and I'm going to just say this is called mark approve, right? And I also want to take a particular ID that is being passed of that record. So I will get into why that is that way. But we basically need a way to pick up the record ID of a particular record that is passed and then make the change only for that record, right? So the first thing that I need to do is I need to look at all of that table, right? And I need to find the form that I am looking at, so which is the fire protection form, and I need to pull up only the record which is equal to the record I pass. So I say, let's pull up the record where the record ID is equal to the ID inside that particular thing, right? But what I also need to do is run that for every single record that exists inside that particular table. So I'm just going to say for each, let's say, in the particular record, run that throughout. So here I'm going to run it for every single record and pull the ID, right? And find the one where record is equal to the record ID. Why I'm doing this is to be able to go ahead and change a field there and mark it as approved, right? So when I move here, now what I need to do is go ahead and change the status to approved. Another way, so when I have this particular function that runs, right, all I need to do is in the application, go back and pass the record ID to that app. So let's go back to the application and let us go ahead and create that button, right? So when I go to when I have this form here, sorry, I go back to the actual report where I want to create that particular button, and I come to the part where I create that custom action. So my custom action is something that we have which is used to create that button, and I would want to show it for every record. So what all of these mean is something I will not get into in detail right now, but what you can see is that I'm going ahead and passing the ID to that particular function. So you can see I create this, and now if I go back to my application, I should have a button that says approve on my report. Look further, you can see that a button called approve is there, right? So let me go ahead and now try adding another piece of information there. And since I do not have any sort of way to go ahead and change the status of the field here, I will have to go back and actually come here, look at that, and click approve. So in case that runs, which in case here, like you can see it's done, you can see that when on clicking approve, the status of this particular record has changed to approve, right? Now I've built this part, but I want this to be slightly more easy to spot. So what I mean by that is, in case if it's approved, I do not have any clear way of looking at it from the top and seeing, let's say, a green color, right? Let's say I want this particular field to get marked with a green color every time the status is approved, and I want it to be marked red when the status is rejected. So let's go ahead and find a way to do that. So in Creator, there is this option called conditional formatting, where you can look at a particular field and create that particular text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say in this report, create a formatting name that says approved, right? And I would want that to only happen for the fields where the status is equal to the particular approval. So I need to go back and very carefully check what exactly it says. So if it says approved, that's exactly what I need to add here. So associate columns is the part where I decide which particular column will turn that color, right? And I say whenever it is approved, what I want you to do is go ahead and change the color of that field to green, right? So let's pick a color here. I would want the color to be green, and I would want, say for example, the text to be white. So I am here and I go ahead and create that particular custom action. I go ahead and create that conditional formatting inside that report. So when I access the application again and I look at the report, I should see that particular field that I have created to be in green. So you can see that it is now in green. Let's say I want to go back and create one for rejected as well, right? So I come back, create a new conditional formatting that says rejected, where it is only going to go ahead and work for the rejected fields, and I will, let's say I want it to be red, right? So I click the particular color I want, and I click the particular color. So I create that, and now I can go back to my application and then see if there is a rejected, right? But the point here is that there is nothing rejected. So let me show you how we can click that temporarily. Okay, so that is disapproved. Sorry about that. So like you can see, it disapproved will not work. I will have to actually go back and put the exact text. So I'm going to go back, and I am going to edit this particular conditional formatting and say if it says disapproved, that's when it should update. So let's go back to the application, and you will now see that when it's disapproved, the status is actually red in color. So this is something that you can do with Creator really fast, right? I went ahead and created an approval workflow here, which would have typically taken me some time to do, considering I have a button and I have fields that are being highlighted whenever a particular function is being executed. Another question that a lot of you might have is, can I move this around a little bit so that I don't have the button here? Yes, you can. You can actually go ahead and even move these, change the length of these particular fields that are there. And if you do not want to view any of them, you can come here, select which fields you do not want to see, and as the report refreshes, you will see that this is and you will have a better view of this. If you want to move the buttons around, let's say you want the button to be on the front, you can come to this point and go ahead and change that as well. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that even reports on this end, something that would have probably taken you some time to do, is really easy when it comes to Creator, right? So this is how an application looks. There are a few things that you can do to change the look of the application, right? Let's say I want to have a different layout. I want to have some sort of icon. So let's say I want this particular layout uh, for the app. You can click that particular layout, and the app will change in that layout. Let's say I want to add icons on a lot of my sections. I can go ahead and do that. I can choose how I want the icon to look and save that to my application. So these are a few things that can be done in the app, and this is an example, a very small example of what you can use Zoho Creator to cook up as soon as possible. So let's look at the next step, which is I've built my application, and how do I go ahead and actually distribute my app, right? So when we look at the next part of app distribution, we are talking about internal app distribution in this case, and I will also cover external app distribution. So internally, when I want to distribute my application, right, I have my web app. I want to go ahead and distribute it to all of my say employees. How do I go ahead and distribute the app inside my company, right? So I can go to the app settings and simply share an application the way I would typically go and share a spreadsheet for that matter. Let's say I want one particular user to have access to one set of data. Let's say I don't want him to have access to the approval report, but I want him to have access only to go ahead and say only enter data, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and share this to my other account, and you will see that the app can basically be shared from here, right? Once you share the app, you will be able to go ahead and view all the people you have shared with. Otherwise, what you can do is go ahead and create different profiles and add users to that particular profile. What I mean by that is, let's say I would want, let's create a new profile where I would want to say he is the agent who will go ahead and collect information, right? And so that particular agent should have access only to those components that he requires. So I can come here and look at all of the different components that I have inside the application and decide what those agents should be able to have access to. So let's say if I want him to have access only to the fire protection form, right? And he can only create data, create entries, and only edit entries. And he will not, if I go ahead and give him view and edit permission, he will be able to view the underlying report as well. So I'm only going to give him the option to go ahead and create entries only in that particular form. So you can see that I now have all of my permission set that can be defined for that particular profile that is there. And I can come back and now add a particular user to that profile, right? So let's say I'll add myself, and I am going to use the agent profile that was there and add that person as a user. So you can see that I can now add this person as a user out here, right? Let's go back and let me share this particular component. So now you can see adding someone to your particular application, sharing the application with them, defining exactly what permissions they have is extremely simple. So that what that basically means is I can control all the data that a person can look at. I can control what are the components they can look at. I can control what field level access is possible as well. I can go ahead and so let's say even if you give access to a particular person for looking at data that he has entered. So I can, in a report, it is also possible to do record level access, as we call it, which is basically give people the opportunity to look only at records that belong to themselves or are defined by a particular rule, and they will not be able to even view the other records that or data that does not belong to them, right? So using the sharing feature and the users and permissions inside Creator also lets you build. You can not only build the app super fast, but you can also share the app extremely fast, define and edit your permission sets for the people who you share it to, right? So let's take a quick look if I can see the app. So you can see on my account, so this is a different account that I am on, I have got the particular application that's available on my dashboard, and you can see that from all of the things that were shared to me, I only have the option to add data inside the fire protection form in this case, and from the application that's there, I cannot view anything else, right? So let's go back to the app and you should be able to see the difference. So this is the actual app. This is the report we are on, and this is the only thing that is available on this particular account that we have, right? So this is how all of this looks on the web. One major part of the advantage that Creator brings to you is that all of what you have built right now can be accessed from the mobile. What do I mean by that? So let me go ahead and I've got my mobile connected here, right? Let's go ahead and see for internal sharing, what do I have? So you can use the Zoho Creator app that is there. The Zoho Creator app can be used to take all of the app that you have built and go ahead and use that inside. So you can see I am actually on my original account that I used to create my application. If I go back to the application dashboard, I can see the compliance app there. And when I click the compliance app, it loads to show me all the components that I have, right? I can go back to the fire protection form for this example, and I can now select all of my data here. I would say this is what I want: fire extinguisher, these categories. Are there any extinguishers? This time I want to take a photograph, so I will say yes, right? And you can see the image of the old extinguisher option is still there, right? I'm going to select this. Now it will ask me to take a photo or choose a photo from my gallery. So this is what the image field is on the mobile. And you can see I am actually pointing to my own camera or my own laptop. I click a photograph and I will go ahead and use this photo inside my Creator app and submit my form. So as as the form submits, you can see that I have now used my mobile, which is on the go, to add this data. And let's come back to the web app where my report actually is, and let's look if I can actually find that record. So I'm back here, and you can see that the third one is what I have actually gone ahead and uploaded. This is the image that I just clicked, right? And since the image is there, you can see that this was filled in from my mobile, and I can now go ahead and make all the modifications that I require on this record using the web app. So this is how you can actually extend or actually distribute your applications internally. We have got a mobile app which is native. You can download the app. Everyone can log in with their respective accounts and see only the things that they have got access to. So while I have done this, let me take a quick moment and change the account that I have logged in from and show you if I access the same app from my original account, I will be able to see only the part that has been shared with me, right? So let's log out of this and sign in using my original account. So as you can see that as my application loads, I am on my Zoho account, and I can see the compliance app that is there. As I open the compliance app, the only component that is visible to me is the fire protection form to enter data and nothing else, right? So you can see in the list of components, the only thing that I have access to is fire protection, and that is because this is only what was shared with me. So this is one way where you can go ahead and distribute your applications internally. Let's move to something that might interest everyone even more, is as a developer, how do I build an app and actually create a white labeled or say a bespoke application and distribute that application for use externally? What that means is nowhere. So all of this time we've been logging into Zoho and using the Zoho Creator account to basically access the app, correct? And what I want to do now is look at a way where I can have no sort of say Zoho branding available anywhere, right? Also, what I want is I want people to have access to their own login where they can log in to my app without really being a Zoho user. But I want them to be a user of the application, but not a user of the account, right? So a way to do this is a feature that we have called the customer portal. What the customer portal allows you to do is it basically gives you a white labeled login screen where a person can go ahead and log in to that particular application. So I can access the customer portal inside the application settings that I have, and I have already gone ahead and published my customer portal. So the moment you click publish, your customer portal is live at a particular test link. What that means is I basically get access to this sort of a login screen where I can go ahead and customize all of how the back looks, right? I can go ahead and white label this domain as well. And basically, as a person logs in here, so your customer is basically a customer of the app and is not someone who has the ability to build or even modify applications. So they don't need to have a Zoho account. They can come sign up for an account here on your application, log into the app and log outside the application, right? So let me give you an example, or let me actually go ahead and show you how to do that. So let's open an incognito mode and say this is my application, which is live. I have already gone ahead and created an account for myself here. Mind you, the account that I am creating here is something that is different from my Zoho account. What I mean by that is this is my Zoho account that I have, right? You can see that as I am inside my creator, I am a Zoho user here. On this case though, I am not a Zoho user. So you can see that here I am logged in with this account, but I don't have the option to do anything else. And I can see all of the data that is shared with me here based on the particular profile I am on. Whereas here I am an internal user, here I am an external user. So the question though is how do I go ahead and modify or really give or control access to people who want to log in from the portal, right? Let's go back to the customer portal and let us see how that works. So we've discussed users and permissions with respect to the application. So this users and permissions is with respect to the application for internal use. But when I look at the customer portal, I also have a user and a profile here. And the question is, if I have a user and a profile here, how is this user and profile different from that user and profile? That user and profile, which is under the user and permissions tab, is for internal sharing, whereas a customer portal is meant for use outside. So what that means is I can go ahead and create a new profile. Let's say I want to call this custom test, right? And I'll just call it a test profile. Again, I have got an empty slate. I can come and select what are the things that I want. But this time, let me go ahead and say, select a particular form that we have not given access to yet, right? So let's click only that. I have gone ahead and said that a person with this profile will have access only to the walkways form, not even the report, right? How do I go back and change this for my user? So you can see that I have already created an account on this particular customer portal, and I would now want to change the permission set. So I come back out here and change it to custom test, which is what we had created, correct? And now let us go back to our particular login page, right? And try logging in with the details. So as I sign in, you can now see that the only thing I have access to as a customer portal user is the app. You can see I have no option to edit. I have no option to edit the application. I have no option to change the theme. I have no option to do anything. And I only have what I was assigned here in my particular profile. So in this case, the customer portal gives you, like I said, a white labeled login into an app and outside the app. That's it. So that's all a user can do. They are essentially only simple users of the application, and they will not have, even if you want to give them the ability to edit the application, a customer portal user cannot edit the application, right? Like I was talking about with respect to customizing this login screen, what you basically have is the option to use the page customization and put an HTML page in place where you can go ahead and change how the login page looks. So let me give you a quick example of an actual customer who is using this with a white label domain. So an example of a portal that has been built is this. You can see that this is the customer portal login, and there is a white label login, and there is a complete page that has been added behind that. And anyone using this or using this particular application, a customer of this application, has no idea that they are actually logging in to Zoho Creator, right? All they know is that they have an application, and the application is what their scope is limited to. So this is what we have with respect to a white labeled web app. And I now want to go ahead and move to the last part, which is external distribution for mobile. So what you can see here is that I've created a simple, we've gone ahead and created that simple application, right? We've got the compliance application that we've created. What I am going to do is I'm going to show you on my mobile the particular app that we have I have created, which is white label. So if you look closely, you can see the compliance app that we have built. I have gone ahead and white labeled this app. So you can see it's a native iOS application. I click the compliance app, and I now have the app open to the same customer portal that I have on the web, which now opens here, and I can log in. And as I log in, you'll be able to see only the last component that we had, because this is the permission set that we have. So let's actually go back and see how, if I move back to the application and I change the permission set that is there for that particular user, what should happen, right? So I'm going to go ahead and change the profile. And as I change the profile, you go back to the app and you will be able to see, as I change the profile for that particular user, all of the components that he now had access to is there. Let us go back and change the profile again, right? I'm going to change this to the original profile we had, and as the app syncs, as it refreshes, you will see the permission set again take place. So I can log out from the application, and I am now back to the original login screen for that native app that I have on the phone. So creating a native app on the phone is something, a white labeled native app on the phone is something that I believe very few platforms out there can do, with the agility that Creator provides you with respect to building once, which is for the web, and having and extending that internally, externally across all devices that are possible. So with this, I come to the last part of the presentation as such, with respect to how exactly you can build using Zoho Creator and extend and even deliver your apps or distribute your apps internally as well as externally. If there are any questions right now, I'd be happy to take.
Okay, great. Yeah, we have several questions. Julian has been trying to address them in the conversation as we go, but if you want to, jump into that, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I did not see any of those questions there. So I will go over them one by one.
Yes.
So So a question asked by someone. Sorry about that. A question asked by someone is reports are read only. When you say reports are read only, I believe the answer for that is no, because you can go ahead and actually define the permission set for the report. So what that means is, if you want one person only to be able to view that particular record, you can give him that permission. But people can go to the report and actually edit the record that is there. So you can change the date. You can change the data that is present inside that report. So that the answer to that question would be no. Reports can also you can also use reports to modify data, but then again you have complete control over the permission set for whether you can, whether you'd like to have them read only or, editable. So, okay, I see a lot of questions coming. Was I clear on that, the first question though?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, my understanding is that by default, the reports appear to be read-only, but you can modify them to make them editable.
That's correct. So reports can be edited. You have complete, a control over who can edit or whether you would want them to be edited or not, as well. Great. So George, I believe I should move to the second question.
Please just keep going through them.
All right. Okay. All right. So the next question is all of the data stored in the cloud, or can it be stored locally? So all of, I think Julian has answered that below. All of the data is in the cloud, and there is no way for you to actually use the application offline, because Zoho Creator is at the end of the day a SaaS application. So you do require an active internet connection to be able to use any of the applications that you build with it. There are a few things that can be done offline, right? If you want to export your data in the app, so let me go back and let's go back to our particular report. And in the report that we have, in the report that we have, I can actually click this part and export my data based on a particular format that I want. So if your question is, can I have my data, a copy of my data offline? Yes, that is possible for you to have a copy of your data offline, but to use data offline, the answer would be no. So the next thing is, what is the cost point for a developer license to Creator? So I believe someone has already posted about the pricing. But what I would like to point out though is so we have something called the developer program for Zoho Creator, and once you become part of the developer program, you get access to a developer license at no cost. But that is on the condition that it is not used for for hosting customer applications. What I mean by that is you can build the applications using that not for resale license that we are giving you. However, you cannot host applications on that account. So you would have to build from that account and actually push the application to your customer's account. So the next question is, where does the cloud reside? Okay. Can we be a little more specific about that question? Is your question, where do the servers reside?
I think the concern behind that is that once the data goes into an application like this, it belongs to you and not to the creator. And how would we get it back if they decide to stop using the application and do something different?
All right. So I will answer both parts. I mean, I'll answer both the parts of that question. One is what you actually said, and also I will also answer about where you can find the answer to where does the data actually physically reside in the cloud, on the servers. Where do the servers actually sit? So when you say the data inside the cloud, all of the data that you are putting in your application, all of it is your data. So Zoho at any point of time will give you a complete copy of your data whenever you want. Like I just showed you, you can go to your actual application and click the export option in this case and download your data in whatever format you want. Other than that, Zoho Creator also has an API. So if you want to move data from, let's say, Creator to another application, you can hit the endpoints, the API endpoints, and actually pull data out of Creator and into your other application. So that would be the first part to that question. And also I'd like to point out though is that if you are asking if the application structure will be given out, when you actually export the application, if you want to export the complete application, it is exported in a format that Zoho Creator can use, right? So you can export the application, which is a .ds file. Exporting that is again very easy. If you go back, I'll show you where you can export your application from. So let's say you build this complete application and you want the application for yourself. You can actually come here and click the export application button, where the application's dilute script file is created and is downloaded for you to use, right? Great. So let's move to the second part of that is where does the cloud reside? So we have data centers primarily in the US, and we also have data centers that have come up in the EU. All of the data centers in the EU are present inside the EU, so they are compliant with all of the regulations. And Zoho also has a major initiative where Zoho is becoming GDPR compliant for handling all the EU data that is there, right? So I believe that would answer. So if anyone, however, if anyone requires more details as to which countries those data centers are in, I'd be glad to give those details out. You could, reach me at this particular email address, and we will answer your queries, obviously. So I will be able to give you as much information as possible as we publicly disclose. So the next question is, oops. Okay. Is there a way to download the data from the cloud? Yes, there is. I have already mentioned you can go back to the particular place. You can export your app. So exporting the application though will not pull the data. So what you will have to do is go to the application and then export the data that you have in multiple tables. If you also want to store your data so that there is no data loss, you can come here and take a backup of your data and then download that backup for your safety. So I believe that is the answer to is there a way to download data from the cloud, right? So okay.
How about data encryption?
So when you say data,
is data encrypted at any point along the way?
You mean to say when you're downloading it?
Well, the question was just data encryption, but I interpret that to mean at rest or in use in transmission. Are there?
Correct. So we do have a REST API that you can hit, and you can get data from there. However, your question, if your question is data encrypted along when it is being transferred between your browser to the app? Frankly, I am unsure of that. So I will take that question down and I will get back to you. George, should I be getting back to you on that?
You can pass that to me and I'll make sure that that's Dale's question. So I'll make sure he gets the answer. Yes.
All right, Dale. So Dale, I'll pass that along to George and get you an answer for whether data is encrypted when it is moving around, right? So, okay. We've done that. Let's move further into, does a user need to be previously created in your system? Can you invite external users? Yes, that's a good question. You can invite new users externally. However, that person would need to have a creator account. So when you invite the person, and if they already have a creator account, then the process is seamless. If they do not have a creator account, they will still receive the invite and they will have to sign up for a creator account. So the answer to that question is yes, you can invite external users. All right, so moving forward, user costs. So yeah, I think Julian has shared the answer for the user costs, where you can go to the pricing page or get in touch with our sales team, right? So what I will do is add the email for our sales team below, which I've just added here, and you can use that email address for getting in touch with our sales team for any queries regarding any pricing. So if you have a question regarding the cost, or you have a question regarding generally how it would add up if in case you have a particular number of users, or if you go for an unlimited plan, you can reach our sales team directly. The email address I have just added inside. So the next question is, how does the white label get created? Okay, I believe Tom has answered that, but I'm going to go back and actually, do that again for everyone. So when you are looking to create a white labeled web app, right, which is this particular portal, this portal is created automatically. When I say automatically, what that means is you can go to settings, right? This is application settings, and click the customer portal option. When you publish a customer portal, that is when the customer portal login and link gets created. So okay, let me go ahead and show you. We can do that here. Okay, let's just take that account, and let's take another app. Right. So I'm going to use, say, this app, right? Or I'll just use, let's say, the payments app, right? I'm going to use this app, and now I want to create a customer portal for this particular app. The way I can do that is go back to the application settings, move to customer portal for that app, and at this point you can see that it's been done. So I will unpublish it. So you can see when you click the customer portal and you have already have the customer portal here, this is how it will look. You can see this is a different link, but when I click the link, it says it is down because the portal is currently unpublished. When I click publish for the portal, that is when my customer portal goes live. And when I click the same link again, you will now see that the portal is up and running. Right? So this is basically how you can create a white labeled web app. With respect to a mobile app, that is a slightly more complicated. I would be glad to share details about that in the current version over email. So George, I think that is another thing I need to be sending you, white labeling of an app for the mobile.
Thank you.
Right. So Warren's next question is, can you persist data to the local storage on the mobile app? And can reports be exported as an Excel or PDF format? That's a great question. So with respect to the first question though, is can you persist data to local storage on the mobile app? From the application, not directly. So when you say persist, do you mean data that you are adding into the mobile app, or is it let's say data that has already been added inside the mobile app? I believe Warren is typing. Okay. Yes, I did. The app cannot be disconnected at any point. However, I'd also like to add is that there is some sort of offline accessibility on the mobile app as well. So let me give you an example of that. Let's say you have a total of 500 records that are there in a particular report, and you want to be able to use all that data offline on your application. There is a way where you can actually go ahead and download those 500 records to your application. But like I said, that would only be within the app for offline. So what I mean by that is you can actually download those 500 records on your mobile phone within the Creator app, and you can search those records inside. There are a few limitations as to what we can do offline, but then again, I wouldn't say that offline access is completely zero, right? Warren, I hope that answers your question, at least the first part of that question. All right, Warren. So moving to the second part of that question was, Can reports be exported as an Excel or PDF format? Yes, reports can be exported as an Excel or PDF. Let's move back to the app. So we are in the particular report that we were, and you can export them by clicking this option. So you come here, click the More Options tab. When you're on this hamburger menu, you can click the Export option and say select as PDF and export as PDF, and that particular report is downloaded in that format as a PDF. And I can also go ahead and export this particular report as a spreadsheet. So all of the things that you can export, the formats that you can export are listed here, right? But like you said, spreadsheet, yes, a spreadsheet export is possible as well. So you can see that this is a spreadsheet export of all of the data that is there inside. Yeah, so I believe Warren is typing, so I'm going to hold till we see what he has to say.
Hi. Sorry. Hi. Good evening. Good morning to you. It's faster if I just speak. So the reports, like the PDF format that you just did earlier on, can that be customized? So let's say, for example, you had an invoice report, and you wanted to put a company logo on and a couple of other custom fields. Can that be done?
Yes, it can. So that's a great question. It's a separate feature that we have that I've not covered. So I will go ahead and show you how to do that. So in the report, we have a feature that's called the record summary. So what that basically means is when you're inside the report, you can go back here to record summary. And the record summary is basically something that allows you to create a custom view. So let's say I want to do a test summary. And this is what allows you to create a custom view of that particular record by using the data that's present in that. So let's say I want to create an image. I want to link an image field. Image of oldest extinguisher is here. And I also want to add some stuff here. I'll just go ahead. I'm sorry, I'm being a little clumsy with how I'm adding it, but it's just to show you what is possible. So let's say this is the fire safety compliance report. I can go ahead and let's say I'll probably just add it in the center, and this is how I'm going to go ahead and press save. So when I go back to my actual record, right, which is if I go back to the report, I can click that and actually view the record summary here. So you can see that this is something that we just created, and we've got that in the particular format that we want. This record summary will accept HTML, and once you have generated this record summary, you can either choose to print it as well as download it as a PDF. So in the particular format that I've got, I can just click that and it will download as a PDF on my system.
And
so this
sorry.
No, sure, go ahead.
Aditya, yeah. Another question. When you were in that scripting environment and those actions, it looks very similar to C# or JavaScript. What sort of languages would we have to have a bit of an experience to write those scripts or those actions?
Right. So what we have is a language called Deluge. Deluge is what powers Zoho Creator, and Deluge is also coming to all of the 40 different products that Zoho has. So at some point of time, you should be able to write Deluge everywhere in every application. That means CRM that Zoho has, or books or mail. It's all already there. To answer your question specifically, though, frankly, any sort of scripting experience in the past would be good enough to pick up Deluge. Deluge is, I would say, a very high-level language. So if you've done Python, you will not find it difficult. But If you have to ask me a language it represents, I mean, a language that is closest to deluge, I would say JavaScript, right? So if you have JavaScript experience or even Python experience,
Yeah.
picking this up will be something that is extremely easy.
Okay.
So this is where, this is the IDE that is there. All deluge script is written inside here. So I hope that answered that question.
It does. Thank you.
All right, great.
Hello,
Wonderful.
this is Richard. I have some questions.
Hi, Richard. Yes, sure.
With the report, can we create a address labeling? I have a customer table. I want to print out all the customers, their address in the address labeling format so that we can print it out and we can, if we wanted to send out their actual letters or card, thank you card,
yes,
or whatnot.
Yes, that is possible. So if we go back to what I was showing you within the record summary, what you can do is print that in such a way where this is so you can see this is the format we chose to show what is there, but you can actually go back and so this is, if you look at the record summary very closely, it is pulling values that have been selected from the particular record. So the record summary for every record will be different based on the data that's present. So if you want to print it in the form of an address label, yes, it's possible. You need to come to the record summary and actually go to the record summary and put in the particular format that you want for that particular record. So if I come back here and if I edit this particular record summary, I can actually go here and put it in any format that I want, right? So let's say you want to go ahead and put let's say your, like I mentioned at the start of the webinar though, is let's say your requirement is very, very custom, something that this is not being able to do. What I would recommend is you go ahead and create a page where the page will actually populate data from this report that we have, right? And then print that page out. So there are ways where you can convert using script, where you can convert a page directly to a PDF and have that attached to an email and send out, or have that downloaded to your system directly.
Okay.
I hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you. And another question is, can we just copy the app, basically duplicate the same app, then modify it on other ones?
Yes, that's possible. So the way that is done, so let me go ahead and see if I can do that for you right now. Is one way to do that is directly go ahead and export the application DS file, which is what we've done here. So let's say this is the name of the application is compliance, right? I'm going to go ahead and find that app. Let's rename it to, say, compliance test, right? And what you can do is I'm going to come back to my account right now, and I will import that particular file that we've got. So this is my DS file. I'm going to go ahead and add that here, and the system will take the exported DS file and convert that. So in case it cannot, it will give you an output where, okay, so it says application with the same name already exists. So I think I should go ahead and change the name of the application, but this is basically how you do it. Another way to do that would be to come to the application and then duplicate the application from here.
Oh, perfect.
Okay.
That is actually, that's the easiest one. So we'll go ahead and duplicate the app. Once that app is duplicated, it will work just like any new application that is there. You can click that and you can go ahead and edit it. So sometimes it'll take a little time to do it though. You might have to wait a bit, but once it's done, you can see copy of compliance is now created. Copy of compliance is the duplicated app, and let's say I want to change something. So I'm going to come back here and I'm going to say take out this particular field, right? So I'm deleting this field here. This is the copied application where I have deleted it, and if I come back here, this is my another application. Yeah, this is the original application that we had, which is compliance. You can see this is still there, and in copy of compliance, this is gone. So these are two different applications right now with two different versions.
Okay, great. So we have a few more questions and only a few more minutes. So if we can kind of hit those.
Hello, I'm sorry. This is Richard again. I have to leave as well. But can I have your contact information again?
Yes, sure. So any questions, you all can reach me at this particular email address. It is adiya.t@zohocorp.com. So adiya.t@zohocorp.com.
Great. Thank you so much. This is great.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much
for everybody. Appreciate it.
Have a good day.
Dieter, just one question before we wrap up. I know everybody's in a hurry. Can we integrate this with, say, QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Desktop?
Yes, from what I know, QuickBooks has an API. So let's get to how that integration would work. Let me go ahead and actually show you the website. Let's say when you go to the creator website, you can go to the developer, or actually, you know what, you can go to the resources section. And in the resources section, we have something called the API guide. So when you click the API guide, this shows you the complete API that we have for Zoho Creator. The moment you build even a field on the application, the respective endpoint on the API is created for it. So let's say you want to pull data from QuickBooks, you want to push it, all of that is possible. And if your question is how do you do that from the script within Creator, I'm going to go ahead and show you that. So I won't really pull data here, but I'll show you what you can use to pull data. So within the workflow, we have the option to do a get URL task or a post URL task right here. So you can use the get URL, post URL task that's there and hit the endpoint for QuickBooks to be able to pull data from there or push data to QuickBooks. So let's say you want to create an invoice, you can take data that you have accepted here, do a post URL on the QuickBooks API that's there, and create an invoice using that API.
Okay, fantastic. Can you use the same process to integrate with a web service like a payment gateway?
Yes, that is possible. So you will basically get. So I mean, if you look at the payment gateways, Creator has an inbuilt integration with PayPal, and that's kind of the thing where when I was showing you the other application, that's kind of the application I was going after. But if you come to settings, if you actually go back to let's go back to the form. Okay, this is our form. And let's say you want to be able to integrate a particular payment gateway with this. We have the option by default of integrating with PayPal. So if you want to create a payment gateway, one easy way of doing that is by doing this, right? So you can click enable payment. You can modify a few things here and there and assign the respective fields that are there. So there is instruction on how exactly the PayPal integration works, but I'm sure what I can do is I can send you the link for that particular page, and you guys can have a look at how that works. But yeah, we are by default integrated with PayPal, and since we have the option to do a get URL and a post URL task, you can basically integrate with any payment gateway out there.
Okay, Tom, does that address your question?
What about support for the developers? First of all, in the developer program, is there is there training guides, training manuals? How does that work? And then what about support? If you get stuck, and you need help. How does that work? What is the cost?
So product support is free of cost. I've just entered an email address, which is support@zohocreator.com. For any product related questions, we offer 24/5 free support. You can write to the support team and they will get back to you. It could be a simple question like a how to, or it could be something as, let's say, serious as, this is my app and I'm not being able to do this. Is this a bug? Is this, please help me out. So questions all across the board with respect to the product can be hit at support@zohocreator.com. If you are interested in getting certification and understanding what are the benefits of getting certified, I can definitely send you some material. And I've just added another email called certification@zohocreator.com. You can send an email to that, and that's actually monitored by us itself, and I will get back to you. So if you can give me an email address that I can send you an email to regarding certification details.
Sure, let me top it up for you quickly.
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay, while we're waiting, there are a couple other questions I'd like to go back and hit. One is on pricing tiers. There's a record limit of say 25,000 or 250,000 records. How is that calculated? Does that count every record in every table, or just the largest number of records in any single table?
No, so that's a great question to clarify here. So the record limit is at an account level. So that means that it will count every single record. Every entry is a record, irrespective of how many applications or how many forms you have. Every entry counts as a record, and that record limitation is enforced on an app-wise level. However, if you look at the pricing again, we have got the pricing divided based on, so I mean, everyone has got a unlimited records plan. Whether you pay by user, you can choose to pay by user limited records, pay by user unlimited records. At the same time, you can do a unlimited user limited records and unlimited user unlimited records plan as well. So we have plans that kind of suit the general scale or the requirement of the application that you're looking at.
Okay. How flexible is that? Can you scale from one plan to another and back if you need to change?
Great. That is another good question. You can change your pricing, the plan that you're on, at any given time. So that means you can upgrade or even downgrade at any given point of time. And what we will do is we will take the pricing. Let's say you go ahead and, for example, downgrade, or let's say you upgrade and you've already paid an amount. What we will do is consider your existing payment and adjust that payment, on a per day basis, the way it is done.
Okay, great. Okay, I find one more question and then I'll throw it back to the group.
Sure.
Do you have integration with QuickBooks or QuickBooks Online?
That was me.
Yeah, it's Warren. Yes,
so
apparently said so.
Yes. I do see one question that we've kind of missed from Richard, though.
Oh yeah,
Can we store the SSN or credit card number? So that is one thing that I'd like to point out, is that you cannot actually do that. That is against the terms of use for Zoho Creator. So if you actually do try collecting credit card numbers on a form, that will be considered a violation of our intended use. So if you, for example, there is a particular page that, so what I will go ahead and do is also send you a link for that, which is the terms and conditions that someone accepts when they're using a Zoho Creator account. So you cannot use a Zoho Creator account for phishing or collecting any sort of financial sensitive data. So Richard, I hope that answers that question.
Yeah.
And Yep.
Okay,
Yeah,
anything else? Anybody else have any questions before we let these guys in Europe go to bed?
Anything else?
So if we actually do not have any questions, I would like to take, George, I hope that's all right. I'd like to take 5 minutes more to kind of very quickly run you through what's next with Creator, right? I won't really go ahead and build anything, I promise that. But I just want to kind of show you what we're already working on and something that we're about to release, right? So the question is, what's really next with Zoho Creator? We've built something, we've built a particular platform, and we're going ahead and doing development on it day and night. We've got a bunch of users who have asked us for a lot of features. Also, from a product perspective, we understand that if we are going to go ahead and make Zoho Creator into one of the most competitive and value-driven platforms there is in the market, we need to keep up with all of the changes that are taking place, right? So what we have is something that is called Creator 5, right? And let me go ahead and let's say just click this particular application that I have. So this is a test application I was working on with someone else, but if you can see the differences that are there here, the first thing, one major difference that you will see is this icon on top. And what this allows you to do, what this basically is a representation of what we have in terms of the UI during development. So when I go to edit my application, you can see this is very, very different. And let's go back to the original form builder that we saw, right? And you can see the form builder is different. And there are a few things that Zoho Creator could, were at points where people said, I want to have more form customizability. For example, I want to have the email field right next to the file upload field, right? I want to have a single line field right next to the file upload field. So what I can do now is I can put the fields side by side. And in the original version that I was showing you all earlier, I could do a fixed layout. So if I actually go back and let's say I go to the form builder here, in this case, you will be able to see that I can do a maximum of a single column layout, or I can do a double column layout. But that's how it's going to be, and that's how it's going to remain. So with respect to form customizability, now with Creator 5, I can go ahead and do multiple fields in multiple orders. So let's say I want this to be my particular layout. I can go ahead and have this particular layout. I want there to be, say 3 fields out here on top. I can go ahead and add that. So when I go ahead and add that there, I can now have a varied layout on the form itself. What you will also see are a few additional fields that you would not there in the original form builder. And the advantage of having these fields is that all of these fields, when let's say you viewed in the live mode of the application, bring to the table something that was completely different. So let's say the phone number, you can see that by default, it is based on my IP that is there. It has picked up a country code for me, and it will go ahead and use the validation rules for the particular country while accepting a phone number. I can go ahead manually select the other countries and say I want it for this country, and it will use the validation rule for that particular. So we've got fields that are there with different sorts of validation on the field itself. We have an address field. I remember someone was asking. So we have an address field which can basically be used to pull in the address. And now we're also at a point where we can go ahead and support, maps. So Zoho is coming up. Let's say I'm going to select Zoho Corporation here, and I want this address to be filled based on a particular location that I put on the map. I'll just do that, and it will autofill this particular location in the address. So we've at the form level, we've gone ahead and made some sort of changes to a lot of the fields that are there. We've added a few fields and we made that better. Another thing that we are doing here is giving you a unified experience in terms of when you are building for the mobile and building for the web at the same time. So you can see that I've built this particular thing. This is how it's going to look for me, on the web. This is how it's going to look on the mobile, and this is how it's going to look on the tablet. So you're building once and you're building across multiple devices. We are at the point where we will be supporting a custom layout for mobile and a different layout for the web. So let's say you build the application on the mobile app that I showed you. All of the fields are, let's say, in a particular format, right, which is like this. But I want to be able to have a custom layout. So let's say I want to have a particular, image show up out here and only a button here, for example. So that's something that we have called custom screens. That is coming up for the mobile. So that means that you will be able to have a different layout on the mobile, and you will be able to have a different layout on the web. Coming to the workflow, typically we had, we had three major components, but now you can see that we have got the form report page and the workflow separately. But what I'm going to do is just click the page once and show you what the page is. So in the case when we were using pages earlier, right? So if I have to come here and create new page, when I create a new test page on Creator 4, which is our current one, all I get is a single, I would say, IDE where I go ahead and now have to type in my HTML, CSS from scratch, right? So it's good because it gives me the customizability. But let's say I want to build a dashboard really quick, I have to start from scratch. That's something that we are going ahead and perfecting when it comes to pages in Creator 5, where we now have something called a page builder. So I can drag and drop elements that are there from this particular thing, and I can add that there. I can create, let's say I want to have a particular layout right next to it. I can go ahead and do that. Let's say this is what I want it to look like. I want to embed a chart. I can go ahead and embed the chart. So in this case, okay. So I'm just going to put something here and embed the chart there, and basically all of this fun stuff where, so I've been able to build that page super fast, something that would have probably taken me some time to do, right? This is the page that I've built. You can see now I've gone ahead and built my dashboard at super speed, something that was probably not possible if I was using the earlier version of Creator, right? So this is stuff that is coming up. These are things that we are working on, and we hope that the product becomes more useful. And the last thing I want to leave you with, though, is something as simple as this. So let's say, when you look at the app settings, we've got a few things that are different in terms of a relationship diagram, where once you build the app, you will be able to view the relationship between every single entity by looking at this. So this is a small application. I only have 2 forms, right? But if I move to a complex application, as the number of forms increases and the number of relations between different items increases, it becomes difficult to track exactly what, how the data is moving around. So based on what is being created here, the system comes up with a relationship diagram on its own and gives you a visual view of that. The last thing, which is extremely exciting, is that once you go ahead and build the app here, you will be able to download a native mobile app for iOS and Android, which is what, if everyone remembers, is I had shown everyone, when I pulled up the compliance app. So if you look at the compliance app, once again, I'll go ahead and add that. You'll be able to see, earlier we had only the Zoho Creator application, correct? Which is not really a white label application. But now, if you want to be able to have an iOS application or an Android application with a logo of your own, you can go ahead and do that, right? So this is what Creative 5 looks to bring forward, and we can't wait to have everyone try this. I'll be happy, like I said, to take any questions regarding E5 or 4 or generally what we had done. I'm going to leave you all with my email address. And thanks a lot, George. Thank you so much.
Just a quick question. You just showed us the new stuff.
Correct.
When is going to go live with those new things that you showed us?
So that Creative 5 is currently still in beta. We have released that for our existing partners, and we are getting their feedback. And we actually hope to go live sometime within the first half of this year. However, that depends on a lot of the feedback that we get when it is in beta, right? So unfortunately, I don't have an exact date for you yet, but you should follow our website, because the day we have collected that beta and have estimated the exact release date, we will go ahead and add that on our website.
So Dita, that mobile app that you showed us now,
yes,
with your custom logo, that's obviously using a Zoho Creator shell, right? Because normally when you publish to iOS, you have to open up an account, and you've got to get profiles and all that sort of stuff. So you basically created some sort of shell that we could publish our app to.
Yes. So this has been done. Internally. So when you look at iOS distribution, I'll go ahead and show you this. There is a concept of something called a managed device. So if you look at this, you can see that my iPhone is supervised by the company, right?
Yes. Okay. Got it.
Yes. So if you have a managed device, Zoho actually has a product for it. It's if I had mentioned in the start of my presentation, there is an application called Manage Engines. Manage Engine is the company name. You should be looking for the application called MDM, Mobile Device Management. And what that allows you to do is publish these iOS apps on managed devices within a particular organization.
Okay.
If you like, I could add those details when I'm sending it to George. George, I think I have
that'll be interesting.
A lot of details to share with everyone.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay, that is really fantastic. It looks like we're going to have two more questions. I think we've got everybody pretty excited. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm happy to take questions, but yeah, like you mentioned, George, we've kept everyone awake. So
no, that's like I said at the beginning. We can go as long as people are willing to go, and obviously when there's this much excitement, that's easy to do. So thanks one more time. We'll look forward to getting more details. Now there's one more question that looks like Mass 360.
Okay, I'm sorry. I did not really understand that question. Could we have, Clint, could we have a few more details on that question? Okay, all right. So I am a little unsure on that. Is your question that can we distribute the application using Mass 360? Am I correct? Did I get your question correctly? All right. Frankly, I am I'm a little unsure on that. But if Mass 360, because I'm not really sure of what Mass 360 is, but if Mass 360 allows you to manage devices, then yes, you should be able to publish these applications onto those managed devices. But I'm taking note of that question, and I will send that to George again. George, I apologize. You have a lot of
Oh no,
distribution to do.
I'm enjoying this very much. I mean, well, I'm enjoying it in the sense that we're finding viable alternatives for for everything, and it's great to see that there are options available. So no, I don't mind a bit. Appreciate it very much, in fact.
Thanks a lot.
So with that, I think we will wrap it up. Thanks again to Aditya and to Julian. To everyone who did attend, I see people are starting to drop out. And for everyone who's still here, again, thank you very much. Look forward to what happens next. I think our meeting next month we'll have to go some to top this one, but we'll see you all next month.